July 10th, 1992. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm with Michael Von Matinsky, alias Mafia Mike. Michael, you used to listen to Radio Free America in Anchorage. You came on as a guest. We became friends. You were highly involved in politics. You had an interest in this particular subject. And, well, tell me the story. How did it all start?
Well, originally, I'm from California, Southern California, as you know, Anthony. I'd moved to Alaska. I'd spent about 14 years in Alaska. And I've always had an interest in aerial phenomena, unidentified flying objects. The night we were on your show together, I think we'd spoken about that before the show. My interest in UFOs, governmental conspiracies, governmental cover-ups, and politics in general. That's pretty much how we met.
What occurred?
Well, my two friends showed up from Los Angeles. We met in Las Vegas at my home, and we drove from Las Vegas out to the area that's referred to as Area 51. We had stopped in a restaurant, small place called the Little Ailey Inn, where there's a great amount of discussion and memorabilia of what's going on out in that area. We had an early dinner out there. We talked to the owners.
This is in Rachel, Nevada, which is actually towards the, well, it's north of the Groom Lake area in the Tickaboo Valley.
Yes. We had an early dinner out there. We spoke with the owners of the restaurant and just had a very, very pleasant dinner. And after dinner, we spoke with a few more residents of the area. And then we drove out to what's more commonly referred to as the Groom Lake area, I believe. It's what it's referred to. We we wanted to get as close to the military installation as possible without going onto government land. The land that we were on was public land.
BLM.
BLM, right, the Bureau of Land Management. And we got as close to Area 51 as we could legally. And so we parked at the base of a low mountain range there. And we parked our car. We got out. We got our lawn chairs out. We were prepared to spend the night out there, which we did. And my two companions and myself made ourselves comfortable.
Yeah, you had told the one girl that was with you from Anchorage that you expected the security forces to come out and pay you a visit. You told her this in advance of that particular event. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Well, actually, it was my friend from Alaska asked me. She said, do you think the security personnel that's been known to frequent this area will come out and visit us?
We're talking about the Wackenhut SS.
Yes, we are. Security personnel, so to speak, from Wackenhut International. And my answer to that was, in my opinion, they'll probably be here within 10 minutes. It was interesting that within the next 10 or 12 minutes, two Wackenhut International vehicles approached where we were parked and camped out. You have to picture this, Anthony. It is at night. It's dark. We're in the middle of a desert valley alone. And out of nowhere come two vehicles. The men that approached us were wearing Desert Storm military issue fatigues. They were both armed with weapons. I'd noticed on the gentleman that was doing the speaking to us, the gentleman in charge, He had a microphone attached to his belt, and so I felt as though we were being tape recorded. Our conversations were being tape recorded. Now, the fellow in charge, it was really interesting. He said, "Good evening. How are you folks tonight?" And we said, "We're just fine." Now, at this time, the two women that I was with were getting a little nervous, and I could tell that they were nervous, and I could tell that they were intimidated, as I was. They asked us why we were there, and we just explained that we wanted to spend the evening in the desert, and we were doing a little stargazing. And I remember very clearly what the gentleman in charge said. He said, "So you just decided to come out to this area and stargaze tonight?" And I answered in the affirmative. I said, "Yes, we just thought we'd come out here and just stargaze." It was obvious to me at that point that this gentleman knew exactly what we were doing there. He knew that we were looking for UFOs or any sightings, and he knew that we knew, and we knew what he was doing there, along with his associates. It was unspoken, but it was well understood in my mind. And the gentleman in charge said, "Well, we're going to be leaving now, and have a nice evening." But the phrase that he used, his last statement to me, really gave me cause to pause and ponder the statement that this man in charge had to say. He said, "Consider this a friendly warning." At that moment, I felt very intimidated again and very nervous about being in this area. I had made the decision to stay the night with my two friends and see if we could observe something in that area. But in the words of the Wackenhut officer in charge, consider this a friendly warning. And at that time, I began to feel quite intimidated. It was at that time that these two gentlemen left, got in their blazers, and drove away, each one in an opposite direction. One towards Area 51 and the other back towards the main highway.
Highway 375.
Yes. It happened about approximately 30 minutes after the Wackenhut units had left. And we experienced this, my two companions and myself, all at the same time. And the best way I can describe it is this way. It was a rumbling, low, guttural sound.
Like that of an earthquake?
Almost.
Or like a subway train in New York?
Similar, but not quite. This happened in a period of a few seconds, what happened, but we all experienced this at the same time. It felt to me as something was moving not only underneath the ground that we were standing on, but underneath the entire valley. That was my perception and feeling of what was happening. It was a rumbling, low sound that was passing through under the valley, underneath the actual ground we were standing on, across the whole valley, going from point A to point B, across the entire valley. It was the strangest sensation I'd ever experienced in my life. I have been in earthquakes. It was similar, but not quite the same. It felt as though the ground that we were standing on was hollow underneath the ground. It almost felt like there was some kind of hollowness under the ground, and something very large was passing underneath us, not just underneath us, but across the entire valley. And it happened within a period of several seconds, this phenomena. While this was happening, one of my companions that was looking, I believe, north, uttered the words, "My God." And as this sound was going across the valley, My other companion and I looked in the direction that she was looking, and we saw the most incredible phenomena that I've ever seen in my life. Looking up in that portion of the sky that she was looking at, I observed 16, 18, possibly 24, what I would consider intelligently controlled and directed craft, if you will, taking the sky. It was similar to watching the Super Bowl when both teams take the field. I had never seen any phenomena like this in my life. And they were, as we turned, as we heard this sound going across the valley, my companions and I just looked up in the sky, and these objects had just taken formation in the sky.
Could you describe the objects, the color?
Well, they change colors. But my first impression of these objects were silver, very shining points of light.
The young lady was with you as an artist, and you've got a
photograph here, yes.
Well, not a photograph, a drawing.
A drawing. There were so many.
Let's see this.
There were so many of these.
This is the mountains here, and these are the dozens of small crafts. What are these balls of light going down?
Well, first, and this phenomena went on for about 15 to 20 minutes, I would guess. These smaller points of light that were turning from silver at times to a reddish hue, to a green colors, to amber colors and aqua colors. They do change color. And these smaller points of light here are craft. And again, I say there were 16, 18, possibly 24. There were so many of these that we just couldn't count them. Now, it appeared that they were maneuvering. They were on some type of maneuvers. They would go from one part of the sky we were watching completely across the valley to the other side of the valley in literally a second or 2 seconds. They would form into groups of 3s or 4s.
Well, this would be impossible with any conventional aircraft. And if they would fly that distance, would they stop on a dime?
They would stop. The incredible distances that these craft, if you will, were traveling in the matter of seconds. I'm not familiar with any type of technology.
Well, these are flying objects.
These are definitely intelligently controlled.
Unidentified flying
objects, yes, exactly.
Or UFOs.
UFOs. I was experiencing a visual sighting of possibly 24 UFOs traveling across the night sky.
Well, you're talking really about the grand slam, the great jackpot of UFO sightings.
Well, as I said earlier in this interview, I've always had an interest in this type of phenomena. I have seen films, I've seen documentaries on TV, I've seen motion pictures of different sightings or whatever, but I have never seen a photograph or a video or even a motion picture presentation.
How about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg?
Yes, I've seen that movie.
Would you say that this would be similar to that sighting?
In my opinion, this was a lot more spectacular than Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a movie. What I experienced out there was total reality. And I understood immediately that I was witnessing something that I had never before seen on film or heard of happening. It was a major sighting, in my opinion, at that time. And since that time, I have spoken with other researchers and people of interest that say what we experienced out there And I thank God that I had two witnesses with me to corroborate this story. I realize how hard this is for some people to believe. Hearing something like this in the past, I would have had trouble believing it too. But I witnessed this. I experienced this with two other live human beings. And what we saw for the next 20 minutes was obviously some type of craft on maneuvers. I mean, that's the impression I got.
You talked privately about lights coming from a craft, smaller lights, like a mothership or something of that nature.
Well, the initial phenomena of these 24 craft, if you will, were on maneuvers for about 20 minutes in my estimation. And then it really got wild. The best way I can describe it, and if we can have that
yes.
rendition again, this is my friend, her painting of this, her description of this. It started with one sphere. It appeared to be a supernova while all these other craft were maneuvering across the sky. One supernova would start from nowhere. It just started, and I've never seen anything like this in my life. The actual size, the size of this was the first thing that shocked me.
How big was it, say, in comparison to the moon?
To a full moon, I would guesstimate that it was 1/6 to 1/8 the size of a completely full moon. Now you have to understand, Anthony, that we were observing this from about 10 miles away. And to see something that large, for me, to see something that large in the sky just appear out of nowhere, something 1/6 the size of a full moon in the middle of nowhere. And then these other round spherical spheres or disks start coming out of it. I mean, to me, this was just an incredible sight. First, this supernova, completely round, and then out of it came, and this went on for the next 40 minutes.
So the disks that were coming out of it, were they as large as the nova?
A little bit smaller, in my opinion, but they would, it was happening so fast, they would come out of the first sphere, sometimes only 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, sometimes, as in this drawing here, 7. And this not only happened once, but it would happen approximately every 4 or 5 minutes, and it would go from one part of the sky to the other part of the sky, and it kept repeating itself. The first time we observed this, it was incredible, to say the least. And to my recollection, the first time it happened, only 3 spheres or disks or saucers came out of possibly the mother ship. It happened approximately 5 or 6 minutes later on the opposite side of the valley when this phenomena took place again. To my recollection, 4 or 5 disks came out of the nova. And it kept repeating itself every 5 or 6 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, around the entire sky. It was the most incredible aerial phenomena that I've ever seen. At this time, my 2 companions and myself were completely stunned. I mean, we were giggling. We just couldn't believe what we were witnessing. As I said, we all have an interest in this, but I had never even seen a film, a Hollywood animated movie, to compare with what I was witnessing. I was witnessing a major, in my opinion, a major UFO sighting, and God knows what else was going on. I believe the average person on planet Earth that would experience and see what I saw in Area 51 that particular evening in June of 1992 given the limited information that's available to the general public. I believe if the average citizen saw that, it would scare the living hell out of the average person, throw them into a complete state of panic. It's my understanding that this type of aerial phenomena, whether it be extraterrestrial or terrestrial, whether or not the extraterrestrials are teaching our American Air Force pilots to fly these craft, I believe it's part of some grand scheme to frighten people into accepting something.
To frighten people to accept a New World Order.
I could see the possibilities of that very easily.
Headed over to the inn for breakfast.